G'day. If you are either installing a factory Hilux breaker bar for an N70 Hilux or you're removing it, this will hopefully be useful to you. If you're buying one, the breaker bars, the Hilux breaker four-wheel drive bar, if you don't know what it looks like, jump on your Google images and you'll soon see it. There's one of them on this. I don't know if it might be just in the corner of the shot, but this is a Hilux breaker bar. It was a factory steel bar for the N70 Hilux. There's heaps of them out there and they come up really frequently for sale. It is a winch compatible bar, but not many people actually use it for that. In fact, it's probably if you're looking for if you've got a Hilux and it doesn't have a bull bar and you want a bull bar, the Hilux breaker bar is probably the one that you will find most often for sale. Now, not all breaker bars are equal. This is a facelift, so this is a 2012. This is the last of the Hilux workmates, and from the facelift before the end of the N70s. And the breaker bars look the same pre-facelift and post-facelift, but you need the post-facelift one, okay? So if you've got a 2011 facelift onwards, if you've got a pre-11, then you need the pre-facelift one. They're not the same, so make sure, and it's stamped on inside the bar, it will say 2011 on, or it will say like 05 on or something. But if it's not, if you've got the facelift, you need 2011 onwards, or it will not fit. Okay, this is a bumper cut bull bar. So if you're buying it, if you're buying a Hilux breaker bar, really you want to get the bumper cut. The bumper cut will probably have been fitted by Toyota, and it's very neat, and it looks nice and factory, no bird edges. I would suspect, I don't know this, but I suspect it came with the bar. It's too neat a bumper cut because it's got a nice little folded lip on the bottom of it. I suspect it's a factory piece. So ideally you'll want the bumper cut. So it's not just simple to buy the bar, you'll want the bumper cut as well. It will fit, headlights, fenders. It's not one that really, it will fit with flares, but it's kind of, the bumper cut doesn't have the flare piece, or the standard one doesn't, so it won't line up. It will, if you can get the bumper cut with the flare piece, it'll look fine. If the bumper cut you get doesn't have the flare piece, then it'll look a bit odd. If you've got an SR5 or you've got an SR or something that you fitted flares to. So just be aware of that. They're not a bad bar. I've run them on a number of Hiluxes. Obviously I'm running it on this Hilux here. They're not the best bar in the world. They're not the worst. They are winch compatible, as I said. The only real variant of them, some of them have been color coded, for example, but really the only variant on them is some of them had optioned fog lights on them, an additional plastic piece they all had the Parker and indicator on the front of the bar, but some of them did have a fog light as well, not all of them. So you can buy that one. They're rarer, but you can get one if you have an SR5 that has fog lights, for example, and you want to go to a cheap bull bar that has the fog light on it. This has it, and the plugs are factory, so you can plug it straight in, no problems at all. Nice and simple. And even if you've got, like, this is a workmate, this didn't come with fog lights, the fog light plug is there. You'll need to get a fog light indicator stalk for the inside to make all the bits and pieces work if you're going to use that factory Loom, but the plug is there. So if you've got a Hilux with an indicator, if you've got fog lights on it already and you've got the fog light stalk, then you can buy the breaker bar with the fog lights, plug it in, as long as the previous owner hasn't cut the plugs off, and you'll be good to go. So if you're looking to buy one, here's something that you want to know. And if you've got one and you're taking it off, here's something as well. Okay, so if you're fitting this, they came with a factory Loom, okay? And your indicator relays here, which is on this part behind the back. You've got the battery, the fuse box, and then you've got your indicator relays here. And this will set the speed for your indicators. And when you bought the factory breaker bar, it came with a Loom and the Loom plugs into here. So it comes all the way, the Loom goes from the right driver's side to the left-hand side, and then goes up here and is incorporated into your indicator relays here, and then it plugs back into the loom on a white plug just back here behind it. And that all comes out as one piece, but it comes out with these relays, okay? So if you buy that loom, if you buy a breaker bar, ideally there's a couple of things you want. You don't want any of the plugs cut off. That's really frequent. You'll find someone who just gets under that, I don't want the breaker bar anymore, I'm putting a new bar on there, cut, take the old, cut the old indicators and parkers off and just take it away, and that's it. So you'll get the mount. So you want to get all the wiring intact. If it's got the fog lights, you want to make sure it's got the fog light plug on it. If it's got the parker and indicator lenses, you want to make sure that they're there, and the plugs are still in, because it'll come out of that and it'll go into the loom. Right, there is a plug and it'll go into the loom, but you want the plugs if you want to use the factory loom. It's got bash plates underneath it. There's a flat plate that joins it, the bumper bar to the factory bash plate for the Hilux. You'll want that. And you'll want all the mounts. So the mounts go all the way up to the chassis, and then there's some mounting hardware that you want, including a square plate with a hole drilled in it that sits inside your chassis rail, which is a real bastard to get on, and especially a real bastard to tighten it up. But you'll want that piece. If you don't have that piece, you're going to have to fabricate one. So it's not just the mounts, you want the mounting hardware as well, including that little square with the drill hole that you feed it into your chassis rail, and then you put the bolt through it. So you'll need that. So a lot of these things, they come up and it's just the bar, and they've thrown all the other things away, but it's going to be quite difficult to mount it adequately without all these pieces. Particularly that's, you can replace bolts. Bolts not a big deal, but that square plate with the hole drilled in it, that does need to be a particular size and a certain thickness for its crash safety. You do want that. So just buying the bar without the hardware, you're really going to be on a hiding to nowhere. In fact, you probably won't be able to fit it to your complete satisfaction. There's going to be some things that aren't mounted as it was. So bash plates, plugs, your mounting hardware and bolts, you want all that. And then you'll want the loom. So the loom, as I said, it will come from the right-hand side of the vehicle on two plugs. It just plugs into your headlight sockets. On the left-hand side, it plugs into your indicators, and then on the right side, it plugs into your indicators, and on the left side, it plugs into your parkers and your indicators. And then it continues up behind the battery, goes to your positive terminal, goes to your earth on the side of the vehicle, and then culminates at your indicator relays, and then it plugs into the rest of the loom back here with a white plug. You want that too, because this adjusts the speed of your indicators, and if you plug in the bar with those old filament bulbs and just splice them into your loom, you'll probably find, unless you convert to LEDs, your voltage will be different, and then your indicators will go tick, 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 tick. They'll start going too fast. So you probably want that too. So loom, hardware, all your plugs, your mounts, bash plates. Grab all of that, and then you should be pretty right. Okay. Similarly, if you're deleting this, yeah, I'll come down in a minute. Do you want to go down to the house and I'll come down in a minute? Or do you want to play up here? All right. Can you go outside for a minute and I'll just finish and then I'll come get you. Thank you. So if you're deleting, hang on, start that again. So if you're deleting a breaker bar, you don't want it anymore. And this is true of the other Hilux we're working on at the moment. It's got a breaker bar and we're taking it off. And what we've actually done is we've moved it over to this one. So we've changed over the indicator relays, and what we've done is taken the whole loom out, and then off this one, which didn't have a bull bar, we've taken the loom out of this, which is really easy. So if you're taking the loom out of a Hilux that doesn't have the breaker bar, all it is, it's really, really simple, is that relay box. It plugs into your loom there, positive, negative terminal, and it'll come out. Really simple, so simple. It's really short, nice and easy. You don't need to muck around installing it. You'll have it out in a couple of minutes. So we've taken that out of this one and put it in the one that we've taken the breaker bar off, and the loom that we've that had the car that had the breaker bar, we've moved it to this one. All plugs in, indicators working fine. The reason that I've taken the loom out is on the other one, the bull bar that we're fitting has LED parkers and LED indicators. So the voltage is no big deal and the indicators are coping just fine. So I've just spliced into the factory loom and everything's working great. Because obviously LEDs are a lot lower draw. So that's how we've done it with that one. So if you're just fitting a bull bar with LEDs, you can probably splice into your factory loom. You're not going to have a big problem. But if you're installing a breaker bar, it's just going to be so much simpler for you. It's going to be way, way, way easier. Just to, if you're buying it a wrecker, it should be nice and simple. Just ask for the loom, which goes back to here, plugs in here with a white plug, and they'll be able to follow positive, negative, and then it's just additional headlight plugs. And it doesn't destroy the car by taking this out. You will need to replace this with a standard Hilux one. But the headlights it's just additional plugs. So you unplug it and the headlight plugs are still there, but you do need one of these. You'll need one of these off a standard Hilux if you're deleting the breaker bar. So yeah, not a big deal, quick thing to arrange, but it is worth noting because it'll just make your installation far, far easier. So not that a lot of people are out there looking to buy run Hilux breaker bars, but they are cheap, like even now N70s, with 2022, N70's been out of production since 2015. You can still buy aftermarket bars from ARB or something for circa $3,000. You can go beyond that up to $4,000 plus if you want to buy a big tough bar or something like that. People are still making bars for these things. But breaker bars are a dime a dozen on Gumtree and Facebook Marketplace for $100, $200, $300, $500 each. Pretty common, but just to make the installation easier, it's better if you can get those pieces. It'll just speed up the process. If you can't get the hardware, that square. That square, what does it call it? Square washer and spacer that you put inside your chassis rail, I'd be a bit concerned about not having that because I'd want to mount that because that's a pretty integral part of the mounting process with the bar. If you can't get the hardware, I'd probably pass and get one where you can get it. If you can't get the loom, not a big deal. I just splice into your loom and I'd probably convert your parkers and indicators to an LED variant. It drops your voltage, hopefully won't throw your indicators out. But there have been a few people, if you scroll back through old social media and forum posts on the N70, people fitted breaker bars, tried to splice into their loom and then they couldn't get their indicator speed to match up properly, or they've deleted the breaker bar and put something else on with LEDs and they've found their indicator speed is all over the place. That's the reason, because of the factory loom. So if you're aware of that, you'll know what to look for and what to grab. And yeah, if you're mucking around with breaker bars, hopefully that was useful for you. Thanks for watching.